Number one, have a dedicated place for soldering and repair. This is actually something I learned from a guy I watch. His name's Jason Ladaney. He does card cheating demonstrations and things like that. You may have seen him on TikTok or Instagram. But I'm really into card cheating and card mechanics myself. And one of the things I learned from him was to have a dedicated spot for your craft so that you don't have to set up, take down every time you want to go do it. You can just sit down and start doing it. I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to learning any skill, not just microsoldering. But if there's anything you really want to get good at and you want to give yourself the best chances to level up your skills on a daily basis or on a regular basis at least, give yourself a dedicated area to go and do that. In one of his interviews, he talks about having a desk where the only thing allowed on that desk was cards. Nothing else was allowed on the desk. So that whenever he had inspiration or was interested in practicing, he could just sit down and do that. He didn't have to set things up, clean things off the desk or anything like that. He could just sit down and start practicing. You'll notice I have a desk behind me sometimes in my other videos over here. This is for actually my other job. I do web development. And then you guys might catch a glimpse sometimes of this desk over here. Let's see if I can get it in the shot. It's this one over here. You can see I have an unreasonable amount of playing cards, and that desk is dedicated to card stuff. So as you can see, I really took this advice to heart, and it's really working. I spent a lot more time dedicated to learning what I actually want to learn. And the best part is I can just sit down and start doing what I need to or want to be doing that day. What's up guys, my name is Zach and I run a microsoldering and repair business here in Quebec, Canada. A few years ago, I decided I wanted to take my microsoldering and repair skills and move into doing something like that professionally instead of just doing it as a hobby. But I found I had a lot of friction and difficulty just diving in and starting to do that for a multitude of reasons. And last time I did a video like this, I really enjoyed just the sitting down and talking kind of thing a lot more than I thought I would. And I was surprised how many people enjoyed it as well. And I really enjoyed the conversations that sprung up in the comments with you guys. So I think I'll sit down and maybe make a video like this every month or so, just to kind of brain dump and interact with you guys a little bit more directly and have conversations. So yeah, we'll see where this goes. But today I just wanted to dive into some of the difficulties I had and some tips for how to go from doing this stuff as a hobby to doing it professionally and selling it as a service. Number two, you really have to love microsoldering and repair to do this kind of thing professionally. But at the same time, you also have to consider the fact that it's no longer only going to be a hobby anymore. It's going to be less of that and more of a job. Especially if you really like what you're doing and you have a passion for it. I think this is a really important point that people don't expect when they go to start doing their hobby as a job. Is there's a lot more to doing something professionally than there is to doing it as a hobby. And no matter what it is and how you go about doing that, it does sort of take away somewhat from it being a hobby anymore. That being said, I 100% love what I do every day. This is not something that has taken it away from the enjoyment for me whatsoever. But there is an aspect to turning a hobby into your job that you have to be ready for. The other half of this point that I think is really important to mention is that you're going to be doing a lot of unbilled work. There's quite a lot of work that goes into running a repair business, and you really have to love it and have it be your passion to do this kind of thing for a job. You're not always going to be able to bill out 100% of your time. Actually, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're almost never going to be able to bill 100% of your time on a repair. There's client communication, there's shipping stuff if you're dealing with a mail-in business. There's dealing with people who don't want to go through with a repair. There's dealing with no fixes. So there's a lot of unknowns and things when you're jumping into starting to do this as a service. And you need to be prepared to not be able to bill out all of your time, especially in the beginning when you just sort of start to get your bearings for customer service, your workflows, how you want to deal with no fixes. So all that to say is you really have to have a passion for this kind of thing to turn it into a business. And you also need to be ready for turning it into a business to take a little bit away from the hobby side of things. Again, it doesn't at all take away from the enjoyment for me personally. I think for some people it does, which brings me to my next point, number 3, which is a lot of your job is going to end up becoming customer service, especially if you're going to start doing this alone as an individual and you're not going to be working with a team or another few people to manage the front end of a store or something like that. If you're really just looking to dive into doing this by yourself, this is especially true. A large portion of your job is going to be customer service, and you have to be good at it or have experience with it or at least be willing to get good at it, because it's something that is extremely important to protect yourself and to also protect the customer that you're dealing with. I find that one of the most important aspects of protecting yourself as a repair technician is setting expectations with customers and also being able to communicate your limits. Sort of going back to the other video I mentioned this in one of my points, that you really need to be able to communicate what your limits are as a technician. And you also need to be able to communicate pretty complex topics and situations into a language that the customer can understand. Not everyone's going to be able to understand what a BGA chip is and why you can't fix their console for a reasonable amount of money because there's 100 ripped BGA pads in the corner of the APU. Like, people don't necessarily understand what the hell that means. So you have to be able to take those sorts of situations and communicate that to the customer in a way that they're going to understand, even if it's like someone's mom who's trying to get their console fixed for their children. So you really have to be ready for customer service to be a large part of the job. Fortunately for me, I have a large history of customer service when it comes to web development, and I worked at cafes for a few years, and I've always really enjoyed that aspect of my jobs. So I count myself lucky in that sense because that sort of aspect of it comes easy for me, and I can get that stuff done relatively quickly and get focused on repair work and spend a lot more time doing repair versus, dealing with upset customers or people who don't understand. So I'll just go ahead and say, if you don't like customer service, this is not the kind of job for you. You're absolutely not going to be spending your entire time fixing and repairing things. There is going to be a large chunk of that time that you're going to be spending talking to customers and making sure that you set expectations and meet those expectations for those customers. You'll have to excuse the sunburn. It's actually getting nice out here in Quebec. It snowed like 2 days ago, and now it's 26 degrees and sunny out here. So I spent all day outside with my wife, which is why I have little glasses marks. You guys will also get to see my phase of the year where I strictly wear button downs when it's nice out. Half the year in Quebec here is winter and I wear hoodies, and the other half is like really, really nice and sunny where I'm at. And I just wear button downs like this every day, so get used to them. Number 4, if you're just starting out and you're not really comfortable with like opening customer devices and working on them, and you're worried about breaking things, my best piece of advice for how to break out of that is to pick one device that's popular in the market, maybe a console or something like that you are comfortable with or that you want to start getting comfortable with, and buy a ton of broken ones of those to fix and resell. And once you get really, really comfortable at fixing those things, or even if you just want to strictly offer HDMI port repairs, for example, fix that same fault over and over again. And then once you're really good at that and you're really confident in being able to offer that specific service professionally, start doing that. And when you go to do that on a customer's device, you're going to have no worries whatsoever opening it and doing it again. And please, for the sake of other repair technicians, going back to my last video, know your limits. I think discomfort when you're doing a repair on a customer's device is a really, really strong indicator that you just shouldn't be working on it, and that you should, put that aside for the time being as a service. Work on that with your own devices that you purchase. The sheer number of devices that me and other repair technicians work on that are just absolutely tanked from other people working on them or other repair shops working on them is really depressing, to be honest. And it really shouldn't be this way. So please listen to your fears and really get comfortable with opening these expensive devices before you start offering that sort of stuff as a service. And I think the best way to start doing that is to just focus on one device for a little while. And then you're going to get really comfortable with that particular device really fast. You're going to know what tools you need for that particular device. So I think you guys get the point. Number 5, get yourself a cat. Cats make your life 10 times better. And are you really a repair technician if you don't have a cat? The answer is no. Look at this cute cat. Don't you want one? This is a really, really important point. I just want to stress. Get a cat. This is Anakin. If you're interested in seeing more of him, hit the subscribe button because he's always helping me out with repairs. All right, I'll let you go. Number 6, if you don't know where to start with getting business, a really great source for advertising locally, especially for console repairs, is Marketplace. And this especially works in cities or areas where there's universities and things like that, like around me. You can just post ads for HDMI port repair or things like that. And you'd be really surprised with how many broken HDMI ports there are just in your local area every year. And this is also a really great way to start getting good at customer service and start interacting with people, setting expectations. Also really helps you figure out how to set your pricing because if you set your pricing too high for a certain service, you're not going to get anyone reaching out. And if you set it too low, you're going to get too many people reaching out. So it really helps you find that in between for setting your pricing. And also really, really helps getting to know what kind of services are useful or popular in your specific area. Not all of the services that I do or devices that I work on are going to be as popular in other areas of the world. So it's a really, really great way to get your foot in the door with actually working on customer devices. Again, if you are really comfortable offering that as a service. Number 7, this is very much a subjective point, but personally for me, this is how I feel. I don't really want to own a repair shop. I might eat my words and end up opening one day, but I'm not really interested in paying rent and dealing with a storefront, dealing with customers who are expecting to bring something in and get it repaired the same day. These are not the kinds of repairs I want to work on. I want to be able to take my time on a repair and provide a really nice service for the individual. So for me, having a storefront with walk-ins is just like not for me. And I much prefer mail-ins or dealing with people over email or text, where you can set those expectations about how long things are going to take and give yourself the breathing room to do those devices. You can still obviously set those expectations in person with walk-ins. The problem is you can't limit throughput, right? You really have no control over how many people are going to be walking in that day. So especially as an individual, I would say like target mail-ins. Like mail-ins are a really, really great way to give yourself the breathing room. Setting up an e-commerce shop or something like that and automating emails and allowing yourself to limit your throughput to something you can comfortably deal with. And you're also really broadening your reach. So if you're really good at this one specific repair or these specific devices and you advertise those sorts of repairs online, you're going to get a lot more people with that specific issue or that specific device than you are going to have locally. So I think there's a lot of benefits to doing mail-in work. Obviously, again, this is just my opinion. In the recent years, especially, I've seen quite a few repair shops just sort of closing down or getting overwhelmed. And I'll be honest, a lot of these shops have quite a bit more throughput and quite a bit more experience than I do personally. So maybe I can't talk, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they weren't prepared for the customer service end of things and or running a actual shop where you have just insane amounts of throughput you have to deal with. You have people who are really impatient who want to get their devices back. You don't get to limit that throughput. And personally for me, I think opening a shop would be a really quick way to making repair not fun for me. So definitely get a good idea of what you are personally comfortable dealing with as it relates to customer service and repair, and sort of shape and mold your business model around those things. Because otherwise you're really just setting yourself up for failure or a lot of frustration in the very least. And the last thing you want to do is kill the enjoyment in repair for yourself. Again, I don't want this point to come off as ignorant because I recognize I'm pretty young and still am learning quite a bit about this industry every day. But I do think there's something to be said about setting up a business model for yourself that's not going to kill the enjoyment of repair for yourself. 8, if you do start by getting into repairs in the way that I've explained to sort of get your foot in the door with experience on customer devices, you really have to get ready for inconsistent flow of income. I think a lot of these points I'm making are sort of how to start getting into this business. It's not necessarily how to immediately go from a hobby to doing it as a professional service. And there's obviously sort of those steps in between. So a lot of these points I'm making are sort of that in-between area where you're not quite fully doing this as a professional yet, but sort of how to start taking those first steps. And when you're doing that, there's going to be quite a bit of inconsistency as far as income goes and how much money you can make by offering those services. Of course, especially if you're just offering specific services, you can't rely on 20 people breaking their HMI ports every month locally. If you're just offering a small amount of services at first, you're going to have a pretty inconsistent flow of income. So I definitely recommend doing this sort of alongside of an existing job. Don't just up and quit your job and start selling HMI port repairs on Marketplace. I don't think that's the move, but it's definitely a good way to start getting your foot in the door with customer repairs. And the really nice part about this too is you can take the income that you're getting from the few repairs you're doing every month and reinvest that into tools for yourself and start diving into repairs that you aren't as comfortable with, so that you can eventually get good enough at those to offer those as a service. But yeah, you really have to get ready for like some inconsistency with the income at first, especially if you're just focusing on specific devices or specific types of repairs. Number 9, start posting YouTube videos of your repairs. Like, they don't have to be high quality or high budget. Start recording with your phone or something. And I don't say to do this to like start becoming a YouTuber. Even if you just upload the videos as unlisted and have an archive of all of your repairs and things like that, you now have like a portfolio you can use to show other people that you know what you're doing. Especially when you're just starting, sometimes people can be a little bit wary of giving you their console or expensive device for you to do that repair. But if you have video proof of you knowing what you're doing and being able to perform that repair well, you could just send them the link to that, even if it's unlisted. And by doing that, you'll be able to, build confidence and reputation with that person so that they can feel comfortable leaving their device with you. Especially if you don't own a shop or something like that people can walk into and drop their device off. People obviously are more comfortable doing that than giving a device to you at your house or something like that. And the second thing that this really helps with is having an archive of all of your repairs uploaded to YouTube allows you to go back and look at previous repairs you've done. After like 100 repairs even, you start to just like forget a lot of the stuff that you've done or how you fixed that particular device with the exact same symptoms that you have now, and you can't quite remember how you fixed it. or which chip was fried or something like that. Having like a record of all of the repairs that you've done previously, it's absolutely priceless. You have no idea how often I go back and look at some of the old recordings I made of myself repairing various devices for the repairs I do these days. The stuff that I've uploaded to YouTube is not even a fraction of the amount of footage I have of myself doing repairs. I have terabytes of recordings of me just doing repairs before I even began uploading to YouTube. And this was just so beneficial for me to go be able to refer back to the other repairs and see exactly what the issue was with that specific device, because I'm working on one now, for example, that has those exact same symptoms, that kind of thing. The other benefit to recording everything you're doing is that if a customer is upset at you for some specific reason, you have proof. You have the entire footage of you repairing that device, and you can gain their trust. If they think that you broke their device in a certain way that you didn't. Fortunately, I really haven't had to rely on that too much. I think there was only a few scenarios where someone just wanted to see the inside of the console and what kind of work I had done, just to make sure, it was something that they were happy with. So I've done that a few times. I find it is nice too for customer service purposes to be able to just take some screenshots of some of the repair footage and show them the job that you did, the before and after. And it really instills confidence in people. And I think that sort of stuff really sticks with people when they have something else break. And I get a good chunk of repeat business from those customers that I've done that for. So definitely something to consider even if you have no intentions of making a YouTube channel or something. And the benefit of uploading it to YouTube is you don't have to have like terabytes and terabytes of hard drives like I do. You can just use Google servers, throw that stuff up on YouTube and call it a day. 10, you really, really need to learn how to learn by yourself. In this industry, especially if you want to start branching out into other repairs that are sort of in the unknown territory where you're going to be receiving no power consoles or no power devices. These sorts of repairs can oftentimes be things that no one has videos online for. We're really fortunate these days that we have a community like this where we can share and collaborate with things like PS5 UART codes and the various things that can go wrong consistently with various devices. But even with all of that stuff, you're going to run into repairs that there's no videos for. And you need to be able to get comfortable with learning how to learn and learning how to troubleshoot yourself. And you won't always be able to rely on an online community. One of the most depressing things as a repair technician is having a specific symptom that's like really, really unique or specific, and you look it up and there's like one forum post about it with 0 answers on like GBA temp or on like bad caps or something. Especially early on, it can be so disheartening not having anything to go off of. But this is such an important skill to be able to build up for yourself, to learn how to troubleshoot things without any context, without any other people who have that same issue who are showing you exactly how to fix it. Being able to pick that issue apart and learn how to troubleshoot in that way and being able to tackle it in a logical way is an extremely important skill to build out, especially if you're looking to do this as a service, because you're not always going to be able to rely on forums or YouTube videos for how to approach a repair. So if you're interested in learning how to approach repairs like this in a logical way and you don't really know where to start with that, I have some videos coming up, and I already have a few on my channel that will pick apart and go through how you can take something like, for example, a PS5 with no power and follow the path of power on the console and figure out what's going wrong. So if you're interested in videos like that, hit the subscribe button because I've got some cool videos coming out that I think you'll be interested in. But otherwise, I really appreciate you guys for watching, and I wish you good luck on your repair journey, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.